What's up, you guys? Schaub and Ross Sapp here for the Wrestling Inc. podcast, June 12th edition. I am here solo tonight. No Raj, no Rob McCarron, just me talking Slammiversary. We're going to talk a little bit about the NXT tapings that happened. So if you don't want spoilers, I'll save those for the end of the show, and I'll warn you again before we do it. Also, we're going to talk about the new TNA minority owner. That's kind of interesting, I think. But I have to say something about the terrible events that happened in Orlando early this morning. Tragic and senseless. I can say personally, I had a friend here in Kentucky that was shot completely at random just late last week, and passed away. So kind of know what a lot of these people are going through in their families. It's really hit our area hard, and it's terrifying to think. And hopefully something is done to help prevent things like this. TNA did a very nice moment of silence for those who lost their lives and were injured. And that's their home territory in Orlando. So very, very glad to see them do something there. But we had TNA Slammiversary tonight. They kept on. They did the show despite this tragedy, and in my opinion, wasn't a great show. And I wanted it to be a great show, like really, really badly. I wanted it to be a great show. I thought there was some really awesome stuff on this show, but ultimately, I feel like it was missing some things. It was really inconsistent, I'll say that. But there were some really good things on this show. They opened up with that X Division match. Crazy X Division match. Andrew Everett, Trevor Lee, DJZ, and Eddie Edwards. This reminded me of the X Division that I watched 10 years ago and really enjoyed. The X Division that gave me a reason to watch TNA. Now, the unfortunate part about this match was that's pretty much the whole X Division right now. You have a couple other guys, but really, that's the whole X Division, those four guys. And I guess Mandrews, if he's still around. Eddie Edwards won. It was an unbelievable match. I love that mushroom stomp that Trevor Lee does. It's excellent. They booted Gregory Shane Helms, who spoke to us last week. They booted him from ringside. You're gonna hear the criticism that they're flipping around. There's no psychology. You don't have to have a lot of psychology in a four-way match because it needs to be nonstop action, no pun intended. And when you have four people, it gives you that ability. You can do that without sacrificing any psychology or anything of that nature. So I love that match. Eddie Edwards winning the title. Don't know how I feel about that, but I mean, I guess I'll see how it works out. I don't know when Davey Richards is going to be back. I mean, I think it was like February or March, so he's got a ways to go. Because I would think that when he comes back, they'll do maybe an Edwards-Richards feud, maybe like a friendly feud, things like that. They should. Say what you will about these two guys, but they can go in the ring. And I've never been a fan of the Davey Richards psychology personally, but I think they could have a really good match. And I think there are things you can do underneath. You can have a secondary X Division program with Trevor Lee and Andrew Everett who get dissension because of the title loss. I like that they're using Shane Helms. They're also using Al Snow. They're using guys that I don't know if they're having to pay them again, but maybe they're saying, hey, listen, you want this agent job? You'll do a little work for us on TV too. Can't say that that's what's happening, but I don't blame them if it is. So we had this tribunal match. Tribunal is the name of the tag team, not like a tribunal match. They faced Grado and Mahabali Shera. Mahabali Shera sucks. This guy is so bad. He's good at doing the sky high. That's about it. Holy crap. That guy sucks so bad. You want to know what's really scary about Mahabali Shera? He's this bad now, Somebody says Grado sucks too. You can say what you want about Grado. Grado's a comedy character. He's kind of funny. But at least on social media he is. Mahabali Shera ain't funny, and he's not good in the ring. And what's really scary is that 4 years ago, with this guy being as bad as he is now, 4 years ago, he was the Ring Ka King champion. Now, I get it. They wanted to go to India. They've got I don't know if it's a lucrative TV deal, but an important TV deal in India. They want a star over there. You know, and I know these guys aren't necessarily from there, but you got the Bollywood boys. You got Sanjay Dutt. You got Jinder Mahal. Daivari is, you know, he's not from there, but I think he speaks the language. Or no, I think Sanjay Dutt speaks no. Daivari speaks Farsi, I think. You got a lot of guys, a lot of other options. Mahabali Shera sucks. He's terrible. This match wasn't good. You got 3 promotions now doing this Make Wrestling Great Again gimmick. You have All Night Express doing it in Ring of Honor. You have Al Snow in the Tribunal doing it in TNA. And you have Darren Young and Bob Backlund doing it in WWE. And it's crazy to think this, but those 1 minute Bob Backlund, Darren Young segments are the best ones. Don't like this. Al Snow, I enjoyed him for parts of this angle. I thought that, it was very close to reality for him and his feelings in the wrestling business, some of which I agree with, some of which I don't. But he used it and he made it into, I thought, an somewhat interesting TV angle, especially when you got Shera in there trying to make that an interesting angle. That ain't easy. Taking a swig of water from my giant jug there. Somebody says, Santino is funny on TV. Grado's not funny. Sometimes. I didn't think Santino was that funny. There were times that he was, though. But this match sucked. And I get it. They want to get the Tribunal over. Hopefully they can move on from here. Shera's terrible. Gail Kim came out, said she wanted to fight Maria. That didn't happen. Allie came out with Maria. Now listen. Allie, Cherry Bomb, probably one of the more talented women they have on the roster. And they're using her as a manager to manage a manager. Can't agree with that use of her, but it is what it is. They've got financial problems, but they're paying somebody to manage a manager. Whatever, man. Don't know. Either way, they put Gail Kim in the Knockouts title match. Billy Corgan came out and made that. I thought this was the best idea because from what I've seen of Sienna in TNA, there needed to be a third person in that match. Now, I had a lot of people saying, well, Sienna was really good on the Indies. Well, she's not in TNA. Not from what I've seen, at least from a technical standpoint. I hope she is because I think she can offer what Awesome Kong and what Jessica Havoc can't or didn't, at least consistently. Awesome Kong, her abilities went really downhill over the past year or so. And Jessica Havoc had her own set of issues. But, yeah, wasn't a fan of Sienna, wasn't a fan of this match. As one of my Twitter followers, Rovert, pointed out on Twitter, I could see Gail Kim being the inductee into the Hall of Fame. Also, maybe James Storm. But yeah, wasn't a fan of this match either. And to be honest, most of it had to do with Sienna. I hope she can turn it around because I've heard that she did really great stuff on the Indies, and I didn't get a chance to watch that. I don't get a chance to watch a whole lot of Indies. There's a lot of WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA, UFC I got to cover, Bellator I have to cover. But I hope she can turn it around because she has, I can tell, like her look is good. If she works like a monster, I think it'll work. There's just some things she does that I think kind of look clunky. She'll run, and she'll run into one of the elbows or something, but she'll come to a full stop before doing it. It just doesn't look too good. Doesn't look too good. Eli Drake versus Bram. I think Bram and Eli Drake could both be really good, but here's the issue. And the match was fine. Nothing special, but it was fine. Bram has a lot of personal issues. Like he's had a lot of run-ins with the law. When he was a heel, I thought he was just one of the most fantastically natural heels that I had seen in quite some time. And he seemed like he kind of had it, like he could have broken through and done something really cool. He's a babyface now. It's working okay for him. Eli Drake is a naturally charismatic guy, but as I said last week on the show, he kind of seems like a guy who met The Rock once and felt like he got that by osmosis. And I don't think that he needs that. I think his catchphrases are good. I don't know if that's him or if it's just that he has a lot of similarities to The Rock in delivery, rather. But I think he's got a lot of potential too. And King of the Mountain Championship match. As I said, nothing really special about this match, but it wasn't a bad match by any means. I like that they kept the title on Eli Drake. I really like him as a personality on screen. Hoping that something comes of that. It'd be better if TNA could provide him a better platform, but I still liked it. I like the match. I like him, and I like Bram too, but I kind of wish Bram would be a heel, but I guess they're kind of short on baby faces right now. I'm going out of order, by the way, you guys. Decay versus the Bromans. This was... I'll start from the beginning. I love Decay's theme song, the Marilyn Manson theme song. It kicks ass, kicks all kinds of ass. Raquel is hot. If you don't follow her on Instagram, you should probably do that. Jesse Goddard's, man, I don't know if there were ever any WWE conversations or anything, but it's like you look at Tino Sabatelli, and you look at Jesse Goddard's. And Jesse Goddard's is a more famous, younger, more charismatic, more polished, better in the ring version of Tino Sabatelli. He was on Big Brother. Like, I interview people, and they tell me they can't have lunch with Jesse Goddard's because women come up and ask him for autographs and are screaming and all this stuff. So you would think that with all of this, this influx in programming that WWE is about to get, or at least influx in important programming, this might be a guy they look at down the line. 30 years old, in really good shape. Like I said, a famous dude, at least within a certain circle. More so than Tino Sabatelli, I would say. And he was a really good football player. But, yeah, I like Jesse Goddard's. The match, again, it was one of those matches that was just okay. Nothing stood out, but I think Abyss and Crazy Steve, this team has like rejuvenated those two. And I like it. It went from being something that I thought was kind of overdone, the creepy horror movie type of thing, to something that I think they have made their own. And I'm a little indifferent on Rosemary. I don't like that like every time that she goes face to face with a baby face in the ring, she turns her head like she's a confused animal or something like that. I get it. You're doing a horror movie thing. Somebody asked, is Lacey Von Erich still in TNA? No, she's not in TNA, you goof. But unfortunately, this was just another match that was there. That's unfortunate. They get on pay-per-view twice a year. You got to put together matchups that will blow people away. Now, I know they're working with a limited roster, so you can only do what you can do. Unfortunately, this was just another match that was there. When I can get through the majority of this pay-per-view in 15 minutes, that's not good. But I thought the X Division match delivered, and I thought the three main matches delivered. EC3 and Mike Bennett did some absolutely kick-ass promo work backstage, I thought, especially EC3. The way that guy went from being a fantastic heel to a fantastic babyface seamlessly is truly underrated. You got to think WWE is thinking, what the hell did we do? Why did we let this guy go? This guy, he has it all. Like where I think that Jesse Goddard's eventually could have it all, EC3 has it all. And this was a simple match. It did what it was supposed to do. It told the story. EC3 got his win back. It didn't hurt Mike Bennett. One thing that I really loved psychologically about this match, because you all know that I like protecting finishes. It took 3 of EC3's finish to pin Mike Bennett, but the move was protected the entire time. The first time, I can't remember what happened, but Bennett didn't kick out. I think maybe the ref was distracted. Can't remember. The second time, Maria interfered. So she's the reason that that it didn't end the match. The third time, it pinned him. That's awesome. I like that. If you're going to do it that way, if you're going to have a finish done multiple times in a match, I think that's the way to go unless you are in the main event. And the reason why I think it should be the main event is because you always see those guys, like I've said, Michael Jordan, Derek Jeter, they have the clutch factor. If you're in a big-time title match or big-time title fight, you can reach down within that, get the heart, and kick out of something like that. And I think that's cool. So I thought that was a really creative way to protect EC3's finish, which is, I think, traditionally been pretty protected, and to continue doing that. I really hope there is another chapter in this. I'd like to see where that goes. A lot of times, you know, if WWE does like a third match, it's like, oh, they're doing a third match. I'm okay with this going for a rubber match because you got a guy who wasn't beaten until Bennett beat him. And then you got the first guy to really beat Bennett. And now you want to see who wins the rubber match. I'm totally cool with that. I like that. When when Bennett was signed, I wondered what he could bring to TNA that a lot of other people didn't bring. But he does have a little something different. He seems a little more seasoned than some of the guys that are there. He seems a little more important than Eli Drake or Bram. I don't know why. I mean, it's because he's been booked that way. Perception is what it is, and how you book somebody is how they're going to appear, and they booked him very well. So that's why he seems important, at least within TNA circles. So hats off to those two. Now, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy. Oh, boy. I like this match a lot. This wasn't like a great match or anything. But this is what this match always was going to be. Matt Hardy being crazy. Jeff Hardy being crazy. I love this. They had a little slingshot spot where Matt was on a table outside the ring and Jeff slingshotted to the outside of the ring through the table. I like that. Jeff got a ladder, not one of the ladders that is like this, like one of the ladders that's straight up and down. And I was like, what in the hell is he doing? And he stretched it all the way across the ring, then laid Matt Hardy on it and did a splash through it. And it looked brutal. It looked disgusting. But the highlight of the match, in my opinion, Matt Hardy got out a damn keyboard. A keyboard. And powerbombed Jeff Hardy through it onto the floor. That was brilliant. I loved it. He was almost parodying himself. That was really cool. I guess that brings a whole new meaning to the term keyboard warrior. Right? And Jeff Hardy's going to be feeling it for days. Won't be if he uses ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. That's right, my friends. ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. Used by stars such as John Cena, Sami Zayn, Cesaro, Goldust uses it. Tons of big WWE stars use ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. And if you go there and get it now, you can get 3 months free of the DDP Yoga app, which you can use on the road. I have to go on the road, unfortunately, more than I would like to for somebody who works at home. But when I'm at the hotel, I get to use ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. and the DDP Yoga Now app. I love it. Also, you can see how it helped out Jake the Snake Roberts in the resurrection of Jake the Snake, now available on video on demand everywhere. DVD, Blu-ray. You go to the DDP Yoga website and get a deal on it using the code WINC, all caps. Also on Netflix, where it has a 5-star review. That's right, my friends. ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. Do it. Yeah, I love the Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy stuff. You know, I always say entertainment's ultimately subjective. You're going to have people that love it. You're going to have people that hate it. I love the whole thing. I loved the Brother Nero. I loved the promo before this. I liked Rebby Sky coming out and doing that cheesy ass intro. I thought that was really good. I liked the spots in the match. This was a spot fest, and I'm cool with that. With that feud, with that promo, let it be a spot fest. Who cares? Wrestling, if you just do everything the same every single match, if you have 8 straight technical wrestling clinics, and I am a lover of technical wrestling. I come from a catch wrestling school. It's like it's going to be boring. It's all going to be boring if you do it that way. It's hard to stand out. So I'm okay. After you had that great X Division match, you kind of slowed things down with a really shitty tag team match. But ultimately, they brought it back for the last few matches, and I was okay with that. Good for Matt and Jeff Hardy. It's hard to do the brother versus brother angle. Traditionally, it has never worked. But yeah, somebody says, what do you think about Matt's new character? I find it hilarious. You know what's funny? Say what you will about Matt Hardy, and it's a guy who I have considered a friend, but, you know, he takes his stuff really seriously. The most we have heard about TNA on Wrestling Inc., outside of, you know, the sale and all that stuff, is the Big Money Matt character and the Broken Matt character. Matt Hardy is the type of guy I hope after, and he's told me this before, I hope that he gets into creative after his career. Look back at the career of Matt Hardy. He was successful in the Hardy Boys. You can say that, you know, it was because of Jeff for whatever reason, but it was a success. When he went out on his own, the Matt Hardy version, was it 1.0, version 2.0? That was a success. He got a lot of attention for that. When he got fired and was able to turn it around, he made that a success. He made the Big Money Matt character a success. He made the Broken Matt Hardy character a success. I mean, he got attention on this show. So I good for him, and I hope he gets into creative one day, because I think it'll be very good for all involved if he does. A really underrated wrestling mind is Matt Hardy. Main event. I love this match. Bobby Lashley, Drew Galloway. I thought that the KO submission rule kind of maybe slowed it down and took a little bit of the, maybe made it a little anticlimactic. But I loved the match. It started off so hot. Galloway instantly hit him with a knee. Lashley hit him with a spear quickly thereafter. Lashley showed off his athleticism by like leaping the stairs. These two have really good chemistry. How much has Bobby Lashley improved over the last year? It's like this, and it's a shame that it didn't happen 5 years ago, but it's like this switch just flipped where he's like, you know what? I'm a really badass dude. I have fought MMA for however long, and you can say what you will about his opponents too, but I think he's 13-2. 13-2 maybe. Let me look that up. 14-2. 14-2. You don't get to be 14-2 by accident, especially as a heavyweight, because in the heavyweight ranks in MMA, you get knocked out. Anybody can get knocked out, really, in any ranks of MMA these days. You can never definitively, somebody's going to dominate somebody else. You can never just, it's just never like that. And he beat Carl Etherington, who before that point had been knocking guys out in like 15 seconds. And he dominated Carl. So this is a guy who is a legit badass. And it's like he just said to himself, you know what? I am a badass, and I'm going to start acting and carrying myself like that. It's like that cloak of insecurity is just gone. He just threw it away. And he has realized his potential. The potential WWE wanted him to fulfill, 9-10 years ago? Which really, I think, climaxed with that match with Umaga. I thought Drew Galloway was great. Sometimes I'm a little iffy on his mic work, but didn't have to deal with his mic work tonight. At least that much. He was unbelievable. That spot that he does where he jumps outside over the ropes, through the table, that's sick. That's disgusting. Don't know how that guy can do that. This is a guy, Drew Galloway, who helped make a WLC match with Hornswoggle and Torito a lot of fun. So I thought these two had an excellent match. I thought they had a really good match. And I kind of wish that it would have been pinfall, knockout, submission, or maybe just a traditional match. But I thought they did very well. I thought the last hour and a half of the pay-per-view was really good. I really enjoyed it, from the Bromans versus Decay to Matt and Jeff Hardy to EC3 versus Mike Bennett and Galloway versus Lashley. I loved all that. Well, I didn't love all of it, but when you put that together as an hour and a half of wrestling TV, I liked it. I thought it was good. Send in your questions, by the way, you guys. So TNA has a new minority sucker, Billy Corgan. I don't get it. I don't know the terms of this. I don't know. But Billy Corgan's your minority owner. Hopefully, and I've got a lot of people saying, what would you do to improve TNA? Well, it depends. I don't know their financials. That's something you have to look at. It's easy to say something until you look at your financials. I've had so many former talents that just straight up say Dixie's a mark for putting herself on TV. And I hate to use the word mark. Such a stupid word. And John Gaborick looks for the same thing in all the talent. Oh, by the way, I missed the Braxton Sutter James Storm match. Yeah, Braxton Sutter got beat. Second match. I don't know. I don't know what else you can say. James Storm was wearing that new NXT gear that he had made before he left. Not a lot to say about that. It's hard to say, well, what would you do to fix TNA? I don't know if there is a fix in TNA. I hope there is. At one point, I thought TNA was the best wrestling on TV. Not anytime recent. Actually, a few years ago in 2012, I thought they had a really good stretch of about a month or two before that Claire Lynch horse shit surfaced. That was terrible. But before that, it was really good. You got to do something different. The thing about TNA, I won't say that their production values were ever like really high, but they did enough to be different to where they weren't WWE. The X Division, namely. And they had the mix. They had the familiar names like Mick Foley and Booker T and Kevin Nash and guys like that came through. But they had the X Division, and it set things apart. They had a really good tag division. They don't have those things now. I know Shane Helms is trying hard to get that X Division important again. And I hope he does it. I know he's taken some good steps. I know that he recommended a couple of guys for there. I know he's putting in a good word for several other people, but I hope they can make it happen. I don't know what Billy Corgan buying the company does, because it can go one of either two ways. He can either say, listen, I'll do this, but you gotta let me take control, or at least put somebody in control that will change things. This is a guy who had an opportunity to buy part of ECW and passed, but 15 years later, he's buying part of TNA. Don't know about that one. EC3, or not EC3, ECW was filling up some houses towards their end. TNA's not. I've had a lot of people say negative things about John Gaborick. I don't know him personally, but I know that from a talent relations perspective, he brings in a lot of people who do the same shit, the same thing. Cookie cutter people, not cookie cutter, but cookie cutter for what he hires. So it really depends. It seems like Pop TV is behind them. I hope so. But I don't know if there is a fixing it. I hope there is. They got a hell of a building block in EC3. They have a really good tool in Drew Galloway. They have an excellent performer in Bobby Lashley. They have guys like Eli Drake and Jesse Goddard, who I think could be great. They have a good foundation for the X Division. Wouldn't mind seeing them bring in a couple of the older names. It's like... when you, over a few year period, you let Jay Lethal, P.D. Williams, Sanjay Dutt, Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Kazarian, you let all those guys go. That was your X Division. That was what made people like me interested in that show. Because at the time, when I'm sitting there watching Rob Conway and Sylvain Grenier on Raw, I'm like, give me some other shit to watch. Got to do something different. Maybe not as different as Lucha Underground. Maybe a little bit in between. Somebody said thoughts on Matt's tweet today. He got tons of heat for being insensitive towards the events in Orlando. He said, my thoughts are with those in Orlando. Let me entertain you by beating up Jeff. I think that was just kind of his way of saying, you know, it's okay to be entertained. It is... The way that he worded it was kind of ill-advised, but he went back and he made sure that people understood. Yeah, he should have worded it a little bit different. But I think what he was trying to say, like if you remember the SNL, the first live SNL they did after 9/11, and they had like Rudy Giuliani up there, and I think it was Lorne Michaels said, "Are we allowed to be funny?" And Rudy Giuliani said, why start now? It was kind of their way of breaking the ice. I think that was kind of Matt's way of doing it. It just, didn't come across as well. And, a lot of things can be misconstrued on social media. I think it was his way of saying that because, Matt understands, and, Matt works in Orlando. So, I mean, I'm sure that hit home. And I spoke to a lot of the guys from TNA today, and, I wanted to make sure that, everybody was safe. Now, granted, not a lot of people in TNA go into gay clubs, but still, it's a tragic thing. And I hate that it happened. And I hate that Matt got caught up in that as well, despite some of his tweets to me. Somebody says, is Bobby Roode going to be in NXT long, or is he going to get pushed to the main roster soon? Or leave and go back to TNA? Now, I don't think he should go back to TNA. I don't think TNA should ask him back. And here's why. Do you all think, and James Storm is a great talent, you all think he was worth that money they paid him? Like that several $100,000? Is he making that difference? He's selling those tickets on live events? No, they don't do them. Is he doing the difference in ratings? Ratings are going to be the same whether James Storm is there or not. Doesn't matter. James Storm would have been much more valuable in NXT, but hey, I will never fault somebody for going out and making money. You put your family first, and that's what he did, and more respect to him. Bobby Roode, I love how NXT debuted Bobby Roode. They did it at the Download Festival, and for a guy who's going to an NXT live event next month, they really make them unpredictable. Like, you never know what you get. You might get a title change. You might get an all-time classic match out of the Revival and American Alpha. You might have Finn Balor and Bayley doing each other's entrances. You might have Bobby Roode show up. You never know what you'll get at NXT, and they do a really good job because ultimately they are developmental and they're getting them ready for the main roster. They switch up the cards a lot to get these guys used to working with different styles and get them used to working with each other. Somebody says, why doesn't TNA do at least 4 pay-per-views a year? Might not be profitable. If they're profitable, I'm sure they would. But if they only do 2, I would believe that they're not that profitable. Somebody says, you're absolutely correct about Matt. I encourage you to check out Matt's Fund Me video on YouTube. A brilliant video. Somebody says, Slammiversary is one of the best builds with a great culmination that I've seen in wrestling over maybe the last 5 years. Probably the best in the last 2. I thought it was a good build. Yeah, I love that they're taping after the pay-per-view this time. Great. Can't be taping before the pay-per-view. Can't be doing that. Somebody said, did they release Russo? No, Russo still writes a column for the site, you guys. He's just doing his own thing on Mondays. I had a lot of people saying, well, things got heated the Monday before with Sean and Vince. Me and Vince are friends. I will admit, when Raj first came to me about doing a show with Vince Russo, I am guilty of the falling for the Vince Russo stigma because I didn't read any of his stuff for a long time. I didn't watch any of his stuff for a long time. And I believe that my feelings were I didn't want to sacrifice my integrity as a journalist because I went to school for this. I wish I wouldn't have. A lot of money that I wasted, but I did. And this is my career. I'm in wrestling and MMA coverage by choice, not out of necessity. And, I didn't want to sacrifice that for a guy who might not have integrity on our show. I was wrong about Vince. No problem saying that. Vince Russo is a great human being, and he's a pretty good wrestling mind. There are some things he says I don't agree with. There are a lot of things that he says that I do agree with, and I learned a lot from Vince on this show. Hopefully I get to work with him again in the future. But, yeah, I love Vince Russo. At least as a person, I do. Somebody says, who likes Matt Hardy's new piano theme? I love it. Man, that's awesome. Somebody says, EC3 is going to WWE soon. So let me talk about that a little bit. And I kind of want to see how you all feel about this. Say TNA goes under and WWE buys it. Because they would for the tape library alone. Because now they got a lot of guys. You can do a good Sting DVD, a good AJ Styles DVD, a lot of stuff with that footage. If they bought that and they brought over some guys, and EC3 was one of them, what do you all think they would do? I think one of two things. They would either give him a push that he deserves, or they would keep that name on him and they would use him to kind of like rib Dixie because, he's got the Ethan Carter name, and, they might just kind of shit on him just to kind of, take a little shot at Dixie, when in reality, he doesn't really have anything to do with Dixie. I don't know. Fearful of that happening. Very fearful. Somebody says, do you think Nia Jax is ready for the main roster, or would she be too dangerous to send up? Definitely not ready. But when she's in there with a Bayley or an Asuka, she delivers. I love that match with Asuka. I had a lot of people saying it wasn't that good. I thought it was really good. I thought their styles played off perfectly. Also, I really liked the match with Alexa Bliss and Carmella. 3 people who are not at their peak who put on a match that I thought was really good. So, yeah. Do you think Hardy's or WWE bound soon? They're going to be in TNA for a while longer? I know for a fact that TNA offered Matt Hardy pretty good money to stay. I do not know if he accepted that, but I do know that they offered him pretty good money to stay. But I don't know. Jeff made it very clear that he wanted to end his career at a WrestleMania. Somebody is on there saying WWE is fake, and somebody says Breaking Bad is fake. Yeah, it is. It's entertainment, y'all. Y'alls. So let's get into this, the NXT spoilers. So if you haven't read the spoilers and you don't want to read the spoilers, don't listen. They're taping 3 weeks of TV, and it's got to be hard for them to do these shows not knowing who's going to be around in, 6 weeks? When we don't know if there's a draft. They haven't said there's a draft. They said there'd be unique rosters. So I don't know. The Authors of Pain came out and destroyed 2 jobbers. Glad to see Paul Ellering back. Good. Get that man a paycheck. He deserves it. Carmella defeated Tessa Blanchard. Good. I like Carmella. I am a Carmella fan. I think she's going to be really good. It's so funny how when she first showed up with Enzo and Cass, it was almost like they were shoehorning her in. Kind of, forcing her upon us. Like, hey, Enzo and Cass are good on their own. We don't need her. And then when Enzo and Cass got brought up, I was kind of bummed she didn't come too, which she needed to get a little more seasoned in NXT, and hopefully she will be, because I think she's a valuable part of that act. I think she is a part of that act. TM 6-1 defeated Blake and Murphy. I guess Blake and Murphy are back together. But they had a little dissension after the match. I would keep Blake and Murphy together if you're doing a brand split, because you could bring them up and they'd be a low-level tag team. I don't know. TM 6-1 is going to be good. Good hand for NXT to have after they get pillaged. Andrade Almas defeated Ty Dillinger. God, I love Ty Dillinger, and I think Almas is going to be really good. I heard this match was better than their match at TakeOver, but the crowd was split. You can't put him up against Ty Dillinger at Full Sail. Ty Dillinger is super over at Full Sail. You can't do that. Come on. Finn Balor comes out in a promo with street clothes. In street clothes. Nakamura comes out. Hot diggity damn. Now, I'm not a fan of Finn Balor in the ring. I think his offense is a little repetitive. I think Shinsuke Nakamura is going to pull something out of him, and I fully believe that in big matches, Finn Balor can rise to the occasion. Sometimes I don't think he has. But against the right opponent, I think he will. Shinsuke Nakamura is a good one. Oni Lorcan, the former Chris Gerard and Biff Busick, beat Ty Dillinger. That's going to be a good one. Glad to see him finally debuting. Another guy who's going to be important to NXT when they get pillaged. Apparently, we're getting a No Way Jose Austin Aries feud. Neither one of these guys have blown me away, honestly. So I don't really care about this. And as a big submission wrestling guy, I don't get the last chancery. I don't know why you would bridge with that instead of just doing a crossface. Whatever. Bayley beat Deonna Purrazzo. I'm a Purrazzo fan. Interviewed her a while back. Check that out on our YouTube page. Yeah, it looks like, and I thought it was kind of shocking that they didn't book Bayley at TakeOver. Because, you didn't have to say, well, Bayley's getting her rematch at TakeOver. You could just say she got beat by Nia Jax. Nia Jax gets that title shot now. Or find a way for her to put the title shot on the line against Nia Jax. That way you can have one of your biggest draws on that show. Either way, she won. Nia Jax beat Liv Morgan. Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Murphy. No big surprise. Alexa Bliss beat Carmella. Looking forward to that match. Those are two girls I have high hopes for as well. Almas defeated Noah Keikoa. I don't know how to pronounce that. Gargano and Ciampa defeated the Hype Bros. American Alpha interrupt and say, no offense, but they are next in line. Authors of Pain. They're going to get revenge on Authors of Pain. You know who I'm talking about. The two new guys. Regal makes Alpha versus Revival a 2 out of 3 falls match for the next tapings. That'll be good. Authors of Pain attack American Alpha. Gargano and Ciampa make the save. Gargano and Ciampa. I got to see a match between them and American Alpha at some point. Got to do it. I just hate that it's getting to the point to where if it happens, it'll be almost a foregone conclusion. Yeah, don't want that to happen. So I have a lot of people asking me about this Brock Lesnar USADA exemption. Okay, and Joe beat Oni Larkin, by the way. Another good one. I'm sure it'll be a good one. So somebody says also, let me answer this first. Didn't Blake have a serious knee injury? He had knee surgery. I don't know if it was he maybe just got it scoped. I don't know. Maybe just got something cleaned up. But yeah, that's weird. Or at least supposedly he did. Okay, so the Brock Lesnar thing. I'll explain this to you because I've had a couple of goofy people, including one person who's covered MMA for 13 years, they said, that didn't understand this. Okay. So the UFC does drug testing through the United States Anti-Doping Association. This started last year. So what they did is they had all their fighters sign agreements that, you know, they had to let USADA know where they were at all times. Anytime they wanted to test them, they can. They have knocked on doors at 6 in the morning and woke people up. They have went to the gym and done it. They've pulled people out of athletic commission meetings and done it. They show up, they give blood, that's it. Now, if you are a retired fighter, you have to give them 4 months notice, written notice, that you are coming back in order to be drug tested and to unretire. Because they don't want people retiring, quote unquote, doing a bunch of steroids and not getting drug tested, then coming back. Brock Lesnar got an exemption for that. And I'll explain to you why. Brock Lesnar is being treated as if he is a newly signed fighter. The reason for that is he retired in December 2011. That was 3.5, 4 years before USADA entered this agreement. So Brock Lesnar never signed any paperwork with USADA saying, hey, I'm an active fighter. I agree to this drug testing. And that's what all the fighters had to do. They did have to do that. Now, maybe the UFC and them held this off intentionally so he wouldn't be drug tested this whole time. I don't know what Brock Lesnar does in his free time, but the way that he's treated is nothing unlike anybody else. BJ Penn got that same exemption because he hasn't fought since 2014. Now, there's always a chance they could have done stuff. There is, but I don't know. I don't know. Not a clue. But that's why. He's treated as if he is a newly signed fighter. Like, say, next weekend on the Ottawa show, Rory McDonald breaks his ankle today, and tomorrow they sign a new guy to face him. Well, he doesn't have to give 4 months prior notice because, you know, it's hard to fill up a card that way sometimes. You got to have last-minute replacements. USADA knows that. And that's just a part of it. It's. I don't think it's anything that outrageous. He's being treated as a new fighter, and he should be. He didn't agree to that drug testing. Now, Brendan Schaub is retired. He does the Fighter and the Kid podcast. You may remember him from The Ultimate Fighter Season 10 with Kimbo and Roy Nelson. He filed paperwork saying that he was retired because they told him, we got to know. If he were to come back, he would have to wait that 4 months because he filled out that paperwork. And, you know, I think that's more than fair. If a Chuck Liddell came back, he wouldn't have to do that, regardless of what he may or may have not done in the past. If they wanted to put him on UFC 200, they could do it and give him an exemption. And I'm okay with that. I am. I want this sport cleaned up because I have trained with people who have been on the juice, and I've trained with them when they've been off the juice. And there's a big difference. There is. There's a huge difference, especially in recovery and things of that nature. But you know, I don't see anything wrong with this situation. Question before we go. Sean, I'm a fan of Lucha Underground, but I agree with Cornette on his views about the style that they present and how it takes away the legitimacy of pro wrestling. There's a lack of urgency to win in that style of pro wrestling. Okay. I'm very passionate about this. Jim Cornette doesn't watch wrestling anymore. I respect Jim Cornette, but he doesn't watch wrestling anymore by his own admission. It's like with the Osprey Ricochet thing. If like people, naysayers are going to pick out certain things they don't like about that style. If they told me their style, and I'm a guy who comes from that, I cover MMA all the time, so I see what's realistic, and I'm sure a lot of you do too. If we see a guy struggle with a chin lock for a minute and a half, but he's supposed to be a top-level wrestler, that ain't realistic. That's not realistic. People like that, if you came to our gym and did that, you get laughed out. You get laughed out if you got stuck in a chin lock. Not with your hooks in, nothing under the chin, nothing like that, just a regular old chin lock, no way. Why doesn't anybody get knocked out randomly by closed fist punches in pro wrestling? Why doesn't that happen? The closest that it happens is in Kushida matches in New Japan, where there's a real emphasis on, you know, realism, especially in some of his matches. The lack of urgency to win in that style. One of the things I've always been taught, and I tell if I'm working with somebody, if we're in a match and my shoulders are on the mat or their shoulders are on the mat and they're not moving, they're just flat on their back, somebody better be getting pinned. Either that or it's like you been hit with a move and you're both knocked out or something like that. Because the point of the match psychologically is to pin the other person's shoulders to the mat. And if they're already there, you got to go for a pinfall. That doesn't always happen in Lucha Underground. That's a big no-no. That is a big no-no. I take great pride in the very limited amount of work that I have done personally in doing that. And I've had some real shitty matches, but I've had some matches that for a guy who's 10 in, I think are pretty good, and psychologically they make sense. And you have to psychologically make these things make sense. Like if you're doing a dive to the outside, you need to make it more important for one. But why would somebody, if like say Sami Zayn's on the inside of the ring, Kevin Owens is outside, why when Kevin Owens is outside and you can't win the match out there, would Sami Zayn just go jump and take him out and risk that? That is a high risk. Maybe if Owens keeps running out there and it's like, hey, I'll show you. Or a thing that I like is if there's like 3 or 4 guys out there and then you do the jump, then it's one guy taking out several guys. I could really do a whole podcast on this. I could. Wrestling psychology is my favorite thing in the world. Maybe not my favorite thing in the world, but you know. Somebody says, what website do you cover MMA on? Wrestling Inc. And I've covered it for a ton of other websites that don't deserve to be mentioned. Yeah, I done a lot of MMA work. It's honestly my first love. Somebody says Brock versus Batista or Lashley would have been a trip. Brock would have killed Batista. You never know what'll happen. I mean, I would imagine he would dominate Lashley, but somebody says people will get exempt for UFC 200 because Dana wants the best card he can get. I mean, yeah, sure. Somebody says, Sean, do you think that it's anyone from NXT or the main roster they can use for the Sister Abigail character? I have a lot of people saying Bayley. Hell no, not Bayley. Bayley's a very special talent. I'm sure they could find somebody. You just got to make it somebody with good acting chops, because that type of role, at least for it should be, you know, you should have some acting chops if you're doing that type of role. I don't think, should Sister Abigail wrestle? I don't know. Don't know about all that. Guys, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I volunteered to do this podcast by myself. We get a lot of people saying, oh, you don't cover TNA, you don't do that. I wanted to show TNA fans and TNA the same respect that I do WWE events, because we do pay-per-views after those. And I talked to a lot of people in TNA that helped promote this show on Wrestling Inc. this week. So I wanted to pay them the same respect that we do other shows. Leave a thumbs up on the YouTube page. Subscribe to us. Follow me at Sean Ross Sapp. Of course, check out ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. Go to prowrestlingtees.com/wrestling inc. Check out the Wrestling Inc. tees. Also, you can check out mine at prowrestlingtees.com/Sean Ross Sapp if you want to check out some Catch Can wrestling gear. Guys, thank you so much. Love you guys so much. Until next time, we are out.